If you love space science and astronomy news, check out my 60-second short videos every weekday. In case you missed them, here's all the daily videos in one cut. There was a ton of great stories this week, but of course there's a ton more out there just waiting for you to discover them on your own. Please follow, drop a like, and consider subscribing on YouTube to support the channel and so you don't miss another space science update. A couple quick news stories for today. Tomorrow, Tuesday the 19th of November, sees SpaceX attempt its sixth flight of its massive Super Heavy Starship combo. Launch is scheduled for 2 p.m. Pacific time. The test will include another attempt to catch the Super Heavy booster back on the launch tower, and Starship will reignite one of its Raptor engines in orbit to test its deorbit burn capabilities before splashing down in the Indian Ocean. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab announced last week that it is laying off about 5% of its workforce. This follows layoffs back in February that saw JPL cut 8% of its staff following cuts to the Mars Sample Return Program. There was no specific reason given for the cuts this time, with JPL management citing general budget concerns and forecast workload as reasons for the layoffs. In total, JPL has cut 895 staff and contractors this year, bringing the lab to about 5,500 employees. The Indian space program has had a number of recent successes, including its Chandrayaan-3 lander that made a soft landing close to the south pole of the moon last year on a budget of just $75 million. Now, the Indian Space Agency ISRO has revealed plans to put a space station in orbit around the moon by 2040. India also plans to put astronauts on the surface of the moon around the same time and to construct a permanent moon base by 2050. In preparation for that, the Chandrayaan-4 mission will launch in 2028 and return about 6 pounds of lunar soil and ice from the South Pole region. If all that wasn't enough, ISRO is also planning a space station in Earth orbit called BASS. The first components will be launched into orbit in 2028, and the station is planned to be operational by 2035. Given the number of countries interested in establishing permanent bases on the moon, it'll be super interesting to see whether they all end up going it alone or if collaborations begin to form to pool resources and technical knowledge. That's Einstein's general theory of relativity has withstood the test of time and has now received further confirmation from DESI, the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument. DESI is mounted on the 4-meter Mail telescope at Kitt Peak National Observatory and is a collaboration of almost 1,000 scientists. The data gathered for these results come from the observation and analysis of almost 6 million galaxies and quasars, which represents just the first year of DESI observations. The results show that the evolution of structure in the universe follows the predictions of general relativity. The research has also put an upper limit on the mass of the neutrino, the only fundamental particle that we do not have an exact mass for yet. Some theorists have come up with modified versions of Newtonian gravity to try and explain the expansion of the universe caused by the mysterious dark energy. The new data rules out some of these theories and gives support to the leading cosmological called the Lambda Cold Dark Matter model. Ultimately, DESI will observe 40 million galaxies and quasars over its 5-year survey, so it'll be interesting to see if there are any surprises in the coming years. Can you imagine a star 2,000 times as big as the Sun? Astronomers have just managed to get zoomed-in images of a star like that, and the most amazing part, the star's not even in our own galaxy. The red supergiant WOH-G64 is in one of our neighbor galaxies, the Large Magellanic Cloud, and this is the first time we've captured such a zoomed-in view of a star outside the Milky Way. Scientists using the gravity instrument and 4 telescopes from ESO's Very Large Telescope Interferometer in Chile obtained the image you can see here of the star surrounded by an elliptical cocoon of gas and dust. The researchers think the gas and dust is the result of large outflows from the star as it reaches the end of its life and prepares to go supernova. This process can take thousands of years, and as more gas and dust is ejected, it will make the star itself harder to see. The astronomers suspect the elliptical shape of the ejected material may be due to the presence of an unseen companion star. I'm looking forward to the follow-up observations and monitoring of WOH-G64 to see how it evolves in the coming years. Samples of asteroid Ryugu were returned to Earth by Japan's Hayabusa 2 spacecraft in 2020. Incredible precautions were taken to protect the samples from contamination, but scientists have published new research showing that a Ryugu sample they tested was contaminated by Earth-based microorganisms. The sample was returned from space in a hermetically sealed container and opened under nitrogen in a cleanroom environment. Samples were selected with sterile equipment and stored individually under nitrogen in sealed containers. The sample was then embedded in epoxy for examination under a microscope. Despite these precautions, the researchers found evidence for contamination by terrestrial microbes on the surface of the sample. NASA takes significant efforts to prevent transporting microbial life from Earth to other planets on spacecraft, but given the stringent protocols followed with the asteroid failed, it seems highly likely that we've already transported microbial life from Earth to the Moon and Mars. You can find the research by Genj et al. In the journal Meteoritics and Planetary Science.